thank you very much, and welcome. It's lovely to see so many people. I was really, really pleased to be invited to come along, so thank you very much for this. And also a great opportunity to talk about the partnership going forward. Just while we get the technology working, I am Mark Pelfer, I'm the Director of Adult Social Care and Health, and I came into post at the end of October last year. And as Nora suggested, I did used to live in Chester and a number of years ago and went to train as a social worker and has worked around the country doing various roles and came back into the locality, as I say, at the end of October. So it was a really exciting opportunity for me, and I know the place and I know the geography of Cheshire West and Chester very well. So it's an exciting opportunity for me to now come and talk to you, hopefully, a bit about where the future is taking us. Now, do I need to press anything? Right, thank you very much. Yeah. Brilliant. What I would like to do is kind of set the scene for you, really. Put it into context about where we are going now, with the backdrop of the changes that are happening both nationally and what does that mean for us locally. What I've tried to illustrate here is that there are some key drivers for us that are taking us towards the next steps within our journey. One of those is around demographic change. We know that people, nationally, but particularly within the borough, are living longer and needing support. We have people that are living within the borough that have more complex needs, and that will continue to grow. We also have a reduced base funding, the money. You will have known and you will have seen on the national reports and also locally that there has been a reduction in grants that come through to local authorities. Now, locally, within Cheshire West and Chester, because of the changes within local government reform, some of the costs associated with the back office, the administrative type roles, changed when local authorities, the Cheshire East and Cheshire West, became separate local authorities. So as the grants changed at the end of last year, we were in a good position to be able to prepare for some of those reductions. Now that doesn't say that we are exempt from some of those changes, but it does put us in a good position to be able to work forward, and today is part of that because it is about partnership, and we'll say a bit more about that later on. The other is around empowered communities. Locally, and you're a representation of that, your expectation is much higher than ever before. The expectation of our communities is that they will have more control and that they will have more choice. And it's organisations like the local authority and the local health economy that must raise that challenge and raise that expectation. And the final one there is about service transformation. Doing the same and continuing to do what we've done is no longer an option for us. We have to embrace the opportunity that is put before us and come together and transform services, not in isolation, in an integrated way that reflect what the communities want. Vision into reality. Modernisation and transformation in partnership. It is about partnerships. Sometimes local authorities and health economies are challenged to say that you do things separately, and you will see that either as represented organisations or as individual customers yourselves. The challenge for us going forward is we join those things together. Some of that work has already been done, and by virtue of the fact that you have the people that are here today is a demonstration of how we are moving together in partnership. That's absolutely critical for us into the future. Safeguarding. We have Geoffrey Hampton here, who's the independent chair of the Safeguarding Board for Adults for Cheshire West and Chester. Safeguarding is at the heart of what we do. We are always thinking about the impact of safeguarding on our most vulnerable residents, and we all have a responsibility for that. Continuous improvement. We do have to continually challenge ourselves. Those organisations that are successful, whether they're local authority, health economy, or private independent sector, are always looking ahead, looking to what the future is likely to hold. But importantly, when we talk about value for money, we're talking about listening to what customers say. So as we spend significant amounts of sums as public bodies, we need to be listening very carefully to what individuals say, because we need to know that what we are doing is having an impact, is changing and influencing people's lives. And it is for a local authority this particular local authority, we are moving more towards a commissioning organisation. And by that I mean that we will be focusing more on how we plan and how we purchase services on behalf of you as the local community. But again, I come back to this point about listening to what you're saying and you shaping and influencing that. So realising some of this, how do we do it? I put a few bullet points there to try and encapsulate some of this, but it is about integrated systems, integrated working. An example I'll give you, we have a service, a learning disability service, that works across this particular area, across the Vale area. Now we have a social care team and we have a health team, but what we don't have an integrated team. They work together very well and they look for the best possible solution. But what we don't have is we don't have an integrated pathway. So if you need to refer, if you need support, you have two different systems there at the moment. What we're looking for is truly integrated working. It is about making sure that stakeholders, people such as yourselves, are involved in the planning of the service areas. The biggest frustration I hear is that people will say, well, if consultation is happening, it's happening after the event. You're telling me about the decision that you've already made. Part of the reason we're here today, and part of the reason about listening to what you've got to say today, is about you shape and influence what actually happens. You have some control, and you have your voice heard in what will happen locally and what will change. I've mentioned about commissioning there, and I purposely pulled out 3 points, because commissioning is about the high level, looking at what the borough, and then looking at what the local communities need. It is about then how do we go and procure that, how do we go and buy it, and it's about how do we hold our providers to account. Because if you say to us it's not working, or you say to us this is really, really good, and we want to replicate it somewhere else locally, we need to be able to do that and influence it and shape it. And that's a really important part of our responsibility. The focus as well on partnership is not just across health and social care. I mentioned there around the third sector, but I also there mentioned around service users, carers. It is about listening to what the community is saying and actually reflecting that back to the community. A, to make sure that we've heard it correctly, and B, to make sure that what we do and how we act on what you tell us is actually having an impact. And that's a theme that runs throughout what we're trying to do. So influencing factors going forward, certainly about our customers are increasing. We know that we have an increasing customer base. We need to recognise that, but we need to plan for it rather than react to it. The expectation is much greater. The expectation from you all sat here, from us, from our families, is much higher than it ever was, and we need to work with our customers, with people, with services, with carers and partners to understand how we manage and we respond to that expectation. Prevention and early intervention, it's where we want to be. We want to work with people before they come into crisis. From a local authority's point of view, we have an eligibility criteria. And where we're trying to position ourselves is focus more on our community services so that we work with people before they come into a crisis situation, and we can help support them in their environment and with the care network that they have around them before they have to make decisions sometimes in difficult circumstances. Cost, yes, the money has reduced, but I do think it puts us in a strong position where it brings us together to make us think more innovatively about how do we spend what we've got, and listen to people locally to say, actually, is it having the right impact? The landscape is transforming, without doubt. I mean, we can talk a little bit about this later, but the changes within the NHS, the Law Commission published yesterday, the changes for adult social care, it says quite clearly in there that it's proposed to be the largest change in the last 60 years. We will have Andrew Dilnott, who's been looking at the finances around social care and health, will publish his report from the Commission in the summer, and then we'll have a white paper by the end of this year, and the government is suggesting that legislation by next year. So huge change in both adult social care and health. There are opportunities for us in this, and I've mentioned some of this already around the partnership working. Both the local authority the PCT, Public Health and the GP Consortia are very close in their working and their partnership and their thinking about what is important both for the borough but for the local economy as well. And it's absolutely critical that we continue to have that effective partnership working, because that's what's going to make us successful and deliver the types of services you can expect. It's about leading on to what we call the Joint Strategic Needs Assessment. And health and wellbeing, the board's are charged with coming up with something called a health and wellbeing strategy. But that's an overarching strategy. It's not just about health, it's not just about social care, it's about transport, it's about environment, it's about planning, it's about housing. And we, as leaders within this, and you as community leaders, have a real responsibility to be able to deliver and shape that. Promoting collaboration within commissioning, it is about us together, and if I take an example of health and social care, thinking about what is important in local communities, talking to local communities, but then coming together to actually commission, to procure those services, so that we do it once and we get it right first time, and we get it right first time every time. We will be establishing a health and wellbeing board, and we're well on the way to doing that. And as Laura described in her opening introduction, that Health Watch is a key partner of that. And Health Watch will have a place on that Health and Wellbeing Board, and will make sure that, in addition to what we do, the reflection of what the community is saying is absolutely represented at that level. The final point there that I've put on is something called Think Local, Act Personal. You may have heard from a local authority point of view about personalisation. This document, Think Local, Act Personal, is the kind of the next step on personalisation. We had Putting People First, that was in December 2007. This is a new document, and happy to talk to people about it later, but I would just like to bring this to your attention, because what that document is talking about is the next steps for both adult social care, but also the wider economy. And signed up to that are well over 20 organisations that represent health, social care and the third sector. So I'll stop there and say thank you very much, and I look forward to some questions later.
Just do a change.